Hello, everyone's Forest Focus. It's been a busy few days for Nottingham Forest transfer-wise, but all attention's back on the Premier League on Saturday when the Reds go to Southampton. Joining me to discuss the game in full from the opposition point of view is Saints fan and podcaster Martin Sanders. Martin, good to have you with us. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you. Looking forward to the game of the weekend. It was an interesting weekend at Newcastle, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute. But really looking forward to returning to St Mary's for our first game in the Premier League again.
Yeah, massively. I'm really interested to hear your take on that because our first game back in the Premier League was at Newcastle. And it was a bit of a rude awakening, but it sounds like you did a bit better than us. Just before we get into that and the game on Saturday, be interested to kind of get your take on how you're looking towards this season as a promoted club. What are the realistic ambitions now you're back in the Premier League after that one season away?
Yeah, I think the year in the Championship was incredible. I really enjoyed it. We had a new manager come in at the start of that season, Russell Martin, and he did brilliant last season. Yeah, we had a few rocky moments. We let a lot of goals in along the way. We let 64 goals in, including our playoff campaign. So we leaked a lot of goals, but we scored a lot as well. And then he's got us back to the big time, playing a style of football that's quite risky, but it's exciting. It's just whether we can get the home form together, which is something we were unable to do in our final season in the Premier League last time around. We only won the 2 games at St Mary's, so we're going to have to be a lot better this term. And I think that all starts on Saturday against Forest. We have to put in a performance for our fan base and give everyone some encouragement. But yeah, I'm excited for the season. I think we've recruited really well in the window. I think the business has been tidy from the football club. There's a few areas that will maybe need addressing, which I think they will do before the window shuts. But I think we've got a really good shot at it this time round. I think we've got the right man at the helm in Russell as well. So very much excited for the season ahead.
You talk of like encouragement in home games, etc. Did you take a lot from the first game of the season against Newcastle, even though you lost and you played against 10 men for a lot of the game and couldn't score? But from all reports and stuff that I've read and listened to, it sounds like you played, pretty well in the game itself.
Yeah, we were outstanding. I took the trip to Newcastle. I did it over 2 days actually. So I went up very, very early on Saturday morning, left at 5 o'clock, and headed up. We got there in decent time actually, and I think we were all really apprehensive around the ground before I create some of my own fan content. And I spoke to a lot of Southampton fans before, and everybody's been predicting a pretty heavy defeat. I don't think anybody expected anything out of the game to start with, but for the first 30 minutes, Southampton outplayed Newcastle, and they with 11v11, they were brilliant, absolutely superb, really good on the ball. I think the signing of Flynn Downs was just immense, and he stepped up. Will Smallbone in midfield with him as well had a really good game at the weekend, and we dominated the game. The sending off changed things massively. Obviously, there was the sending off with Ben Brereton Diaz, who got involved with Cher. They went head to head. And you can't go in head to head. The Newcastle fans were furious. Fabian Cher was sent off for that. Straight red card. VAR looked at it, but it didn't get overturned. And Newcastle obviously played the remainder of the game with the 10 men. But Southampton dominated. They put Newcastle. Newcastle defended in numbers. Southampton had a lot of shots. Struggled to really open the defence, but they created some good chances, but just couldn't score. And unfortunately, we were undone just before half-time from a goalkeeping error. We have a goalkeeper that's probably not comfortable playing Russell Martin's system. He tried to play out from the back, which is what the manager wants to do. He took a back pass and he didn't look before he's played the ball back to his left back. And Alexander Isak sneaks in, squares it to Joe Linton, who scores. And that was it, really. That was the difference between us and them, really, was that one mistake cost us a point on the day.
Talk to us about this first home game back then, because I remember when we got promoted, we played West Ham at home first game. We won. We were probably a little fortunate, but it was so big to get that first one out of the way. The atmosphere was amazing. Are you expecting similar scenes, at St Mary's? Because last time we went to St Mary's, we won, and you were heading towards relegation. And I remember it was pretty toxic. I guess the fans are going to be right up for it.
Yeah, it was a bleak night, that, wasn't it? January night. I remember it very well. I remember sitting in the stands for it. It was a game that we had to win at the time. We were on a terrible run. I think Nathan Jones was the Southampton manager at the time. It's probably one of the worst displays I've ever seen from a Southampton side at home. We were absolutely abysmal that night. I don't think Forest had won on the road that year till that day. And they beat us, and we were bitterly disappointed as Southampton fans. Look, I think there'll be a good atmosphere there at the weekend. There's if you're a Nottingham Forest fan and you're coming south this weekend, you'll see some changes at St Mary's because the away fans have been moved to the south end of the stadium. So they've put the fans in the corner, what was the family section of the Chapel Kingsland. So the opposite end of the stadium, and that area where the away fans and the home fans were for Southampton has become an all-standing stand, and they've renamed it the Northern Wall. So everybody, it's a safe standing section. They want to create noise there. They want to get the atmosphere at St Mary's going because it can be a little bit flat at times. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. Brilliant back end of the season against West Bromwich Albion at St Mary's. The scenes that night were something I'd never seen from a Southampton fan base in all the years I've supported the club. And that's going back sort of 37, 38 years now since I first watched the Saints. So it was incredible down there. I expect something I think it would be a great atmosphere. We won't see what we saw against West Bromwich Albion, but we will knit. Russell said, the club have said, the fans say, anyone with any now says, we need our fans behind us because they know it's a cliche, but there can be a 12th man. And I think we're going to need our fans the weekend in epic proportions because I see Nottingham Forest as a really tough game this weekend. A lot of fans are relishing it, but I see it as a must-win game already when I look at our fixtures, and we will need the fans.
What about this style of play then? Because we saw Russell Martin's Swansea team against Forest just passing the ball, an argument that they pass it for passing's sake. What do you make of it? And do you think, I suppose the big question is, will he persist with it? Because Burnley came up last season and company was very headstrong and they were, pretty deservedly relegated, I would say. What do you make of the style of play, and do you think it's going to evolve this season?
I think it has to evolve. I said this a couple of weeks ago on a few shows that I've been on. I think that he will have to adapt as the season goes, and I believe he will. He's actually made us a little bit harder to beat. We were leaking goals last year, and instead of playing with a flat four, he's playing now with almost like a five. He's playing like three centre backs, but that can become a four when we're on the attack. So he sort of like the left back can kind of play the inverted role, which can be Carl Walker-Peters. He's been playing at left back. He likes him to come inside. Jack Stevens played as an additional centre after the weekend. He can come and sit in midfield as well, and they kind of build more numbers and make it harder to play through. So he's adapted a little bit already, though they're still looking to use the goalkeeper. It's all well wanting to play the way we want to play, but you still need the right goalkeeper in the door to do that. He doesn't have that. I've said that for a summer long now. We may have a goalkeeper in for the weekend. We're linked with goalkeepers right now, but Alex McCarthy played the weekend. I still believe he'd probably be our goalkeeper the weekend. He's not comfortable with the ball at his feet, so he can't go back to him as much. And at the weekend, it went back to him a bit too much. And the one time we didn't want him to go back to him, we got undone by it. I think we're probably going to need to learn from that this weekend. My fear still, obviously, we made a few since the Newcastle game, that there's been some additions to the squad. We'll talk about that in a second. But it's just like how we hurt the opposition, which was my concern a little bit in Newcastle. Not so much in at Forest, because I believe we've got Cameron Archer that can now play through the middle. We didn't have a 9 when we went into the Forest game, into the Newcastle game. So I think for the Forest game, we're probably a little better prepared playing wise. But I don't think the emphasis on how we play won't change. It might just tweak. But we're going to have to be really at it against Nottingham Forest the weekend. It'd be all about a really good start for us.
Just talk us through your kind of predicted 11, if you would, and I'll ask you about a few names that are in there and maybe not in there. I'm not a Southampton expert, but there are some players I'm interested in particularly. Yeah,
so I would imagine Alex McCarthy will sit in goal. He doesn't have another option until we sign a goalkeeper. We've been linked with Aaron Ramsdale all summer. There's links with the final goalkeeper right now as well, whether that one's going to happen. Jason Steele at Brighton. I see Alex McCarthy is the number one at this weekend. Carl Walker-Peters, who's traditionally a right back, he's been playing at left back during the back end of pre-season. He played the last game there. He started Newcastle at left back. He won't change that. He's playing our best two fullbacks at the moment, which is Carl Walker-Peters at left back, and he's playing an out-and-out right back. It's a new signing, a Japanese international. Yuki Sigawara is playing at right back. He's fairly new to the Premier League. He done okay Saturday, but it's a massive change to come and play in the Premier League. So he played right back. I don't think he'd drop him. And then I think at the back, I would imagine we'll say pretty much the same. Jan Bednarek, Taylor Harwood-Bellis, Jack Stevens will sit in there as well. Carl Walker-Peters plays as an inverted fullback. The midfield three, I think, the midfield two for definite will be Downs and Will Smallbone. Whether Joe Aribo starts in there as well, I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see because we made some signings this week as well. There will be, I think, out wide we played. Adam Armstrong played on the right at the weekend. He'll play out on the left. I'm pretty confident that will be Ben Brereton Diaz. I wonder whether if he'd drop a midfielder, meaning Joe Aribo, and play Cameron Archer through the middle, because Joe Aribo kind of sat in midfield, but he kind of drifted and played in the 9. He played a little bit of his false 9 on and off. So we didn't really play with a striker the weekend. I don't think you can do that in the Premier League, not at home. So I believe he has to play a striker. It'd be interesting to see how he sets up. But that was what we were with at the weekend. We'll be pretty close to that, I would imagine.
Just before I ask you about a couple of those names, a quick word for the Trent Navigation. Our sponsors looking a week ahead here, but Forest v Wolves is our next home game, obviously, straight after full time on the 31st. Get down there for the Oasis and gig. Free entry, of course. The barbecue is on, the pizzas are on, people are watching on YouTube, and loads of staff on the bar, so you don't have to wait too long. Thanks as ever to the Nav for their support. Ben Brereton Diaz, I wanted to ask you about, obviously started his career with us. Seems to have disregarded us, I noticed, when he signed for you and gave a video saying what his career path was, but he made his name at Forest. I was quite keen to bring him back potentially because I quite like what he's done at Sheffield United. But Southampton fans excited about that one, or do you think he maybe needs to be a bit more ambitious in the market for a starting striker?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play as our 9 anyway. He plays as he's played left. He's played left side, comes inside. I'd like to see him used as a 9 to see what he can do. I actually really like him. I've watched him in pre-season. Obviously, was at St James's at the weekend. He started the game really, really well, and he played really well for the first 30 minutes. But I think the fans rattled him after the sending off. He wasn't quite the same player. I just believe that it probably at pitch side it would have been pretty horrific. He took some unbelievable stick and abuse. He's got a good touch. He's strong. I think he's a bit more savvy than he probably was. And I think it was impressive in what he did at Sheffield United in a short period of time last season. Needs to find a goal really quickly for Southampton now. I believe him and Adam Armstrong need to find goals quickly, and just kind of put it to rest that that Adam Armstrong that can do it at Premier League level. And I think Brereton Diaz for Southampton, because a lot of Southampton fans he's not done a lot. He's not going to get us a 15 plus goals that we probably need. So I think people are still waiting to see if we're going to bring another striker in. I don't believe we will. I think it'd be Cameron Archer. I think he's the striker that we've bought. So it'd be interesting to see what Brereton Diaz can do. But I like him from what I've seen early on.
In terms of other players that can hurt us, then I was thinking about an Armstrong because he feels like from the outside looking in, he's in this kind of space where he's great in the Championship, hasn't done it in the Premier League. I know he had a tough time, as the whole team did. Is he the one that you think can hurt us? Are there other players that we should be worried about as Forest fans?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how we evolve in terms of how we're going to hurt teams and break teams down. Because last season we had a slightly different front three because we played Shay Adams as like your target, and he would drop in. He was good at holding the ball up, but he could bring Adam Armstrong into play quite a lot. He'd drop in, feed balls in the channel. Though he didn't score a lot of goals and he got criticised for that a lot because he missed a lot of big chances, he was very good in the build-up play for Southampton. I love to see Brereton Diaz do something similar. We're looking at different profiles and strikers now because I don't know what Cameron Archer will bring. But we had Ryan Fraser in the side last season. He's not with us. We had Stuart Armstrong in behind Shay Adams, and he was quite creative as well. So you had a totally different sort of front 3-4 playing, and they'd all pick up different pockets of space and create something slightly, that killer ball for Adam Armstrong. I don't know who's going to give him that right now because at the moment your two midfielders, Downs and Smallbone, are really good on the ball. They're not always going to find a killer pass. He's got a man called Charlie Alcaraz that can do it, but I think he's going to leave the football club. So it'd be interesting to see how we revolve in the Premier League with our sort of front 3-4 and who's who that's going to be. Can Adam Armstrong hurt Forest? Absolutely, he can. I think he's got confidence. He had a brilliant season last season with us. 24 goals for the season was unbelievable. He won pretty much every award going down here. He was a talisman. He was a vice captain. He got us promoted with a goal at Wembley against Leeds. He was magnificent. He was absolutely magnificent. One of the standout performer last season. But can he go and do it at the Premier League? That's the big question, because he had 2 seasons in it with Southampton before, predominantly under the manager of Ralph Hasenhüttl, latterly Nathan Jones and Ruben Sellers, and he only scored the 4 goals in 2 seasons. So I think in his head, he'd be looking to get that first Premier League goal back in it big time. He's got a manager that believes in him, though, this time round.
It's interesting to get the opposition take on Forest, because you mentioned there a lot of Saints fans are viewing this as kind of a must-win game. I suppose we're viewing it as an opportunity as well, because we've got Bournemouth, Saints and Wolves to start the season. So it's an interesting dynamic. What are your thoughts on Forest as a team? I don't know how much you saw of them last season, because you were watching a lot more Championship football, but how do you view Forest?
Yeah, I tell you what, a bit of a cliche, but a lot of you get fans coming and say you have soft spot for certain clubs up and down the country, and I think for me, probably Forest is definitely one of those for sure. Growing up watching them as a kid, the Forest ground is a special ground, and they're a traditional club. Brian Clough. I think I remember it mostly for Brian Clough as a kid. So you always look out for results up and down the country every week. Forest is someone I always look at. Obviously, look straight for your result of the weekend. Obviously, playing Bournemouth, know that you're our opposition next. I wanted to see how you did, how you performed, and I think you got players that can hurt us. I think Wood up front's a striker that could cause us problems at the weekend, because he's physical and he's super strong. I do worry a little bit about the weekend. I think you've got players that will hurt us. I think Elanga, when I saw him play over the last season, I think he's a really good player. Gibbs White, every time I've seen him, he's a player that picks up pockets of space in behind sort of like Wood. And I think you've had a year in the Premier League. You'll be savvy with it as well. Obviously, you've got a new manager that's probably got a slightly different way of playing. I'm not sure what to expect from Forest at the weekend, but I think you've got players that can hurt us. That's for sure.
Should we shake hands on a point now and probably both be fairly happy, or are you looking at, are you determined to roll the dice and think you can win the game?
I think we have to try and win the game personally. I think it's a game that we need to win. Brentford away next week is going to be really tough. It's a game I wouldn't want us to lose. If you offer me a point now, I'd probably take it. I'm not sure about Forest. I'm not sure how you travelled last season. I know the season we were both in the Premier League last season, they struggled on the road. How was it on the road last season, Matt? Were you better on the road last year?
A little. We had a really good win at Chelsea at the start of the season when they were probably as much of a mess as they are now. By the look of it, we won 1-0 there. And then we won at Sheffield United and we won at Burnley when we were expected to. I don't know off the top of my head how many more we won. We were more resilient, I think. Basically, that first season up, we were a bit of a mess away from home. Nuno's come in and probably I think he's made us a better team. And I think we've done good business over the summer. We've got Milenkovic, the centre half, who might come back in, but if not, we've got Willy Bolly and Murillo at the back. So I think we're quite well set up. One thing, we were discussing this on our show this morning. This is the third one I've done today, actually, so it feels like a million years ago. But talking about whether this was a good matchup for us, in the sense that we can be quite counter-attacking and we can break on teams. And last season against Burnley, teams would sit in, funnel them into an area they wanted, pounce and break on them. Is that a bit of a worry for you with Saints, that teams might work you out?
Yeah, it does worry me a little bit. I think transition from back to front is really important, and to do it quickly. But Southampton like to just control games. I was surprised at how Newcastle let Southampton do that the weekend. I was really surprised. They sat off us and really let us. Certainly for the first 30 minutes, Southampton had total control of the ball. They were able to pick it up on the edge of the D 18-yard box, and that Flynn Downs for periods of time had acres of space to pick a pass and to free sort of like free pass wherever he wanted to. I was really surprised. I would imagine Forest would have looked at Southampton. I think they'll come and press us personally. I think Southampton are a side that don't particularly like to be pressed. And I think for you to win the game, it'll all be about getting high up the field. But can Southampton transition front to back quickly. I think that'll be the key. Yeah, but I do worry about Forest home, because everyone down here is like, yeah, should win this one. I'm not convinced it'd be that easy. I think it's a really tough fixture. I really do.
Yeah, I think I think it'll be a good game. It's interesting to talk about pressing. Like, we did press a lot more in pre-season. We pressed in the first half v Bournemouth. We're quite selective when we press, but when the ball goes back to McCarthy, I wonder if we'll just go and just trigger and sit and challenge you to play through us and see if you can do it. So there's a really interesting dynamic at play.
There could be goals. There could be goals big time in this one for me. I think it could be. There could be plenty of goals in it.
Well, that'd be good. I'll certainly take that as long as we win. Just before we go, tell us a little bit more about yourself and where people can find you if they want to check out your work a bit more.
Yeah, I'm a Southampton predominantly content creator. I create football content sort of all around the Premier League now. So I travel up and down the country in every Southampton home game. I like to create fan related content. So I like to speak to the fan base of both the home team and the away team. So if you're a Nottingham Forest fan and you're down on the South Coast the weekend, check me out. I'd love to catch up with you before the game, pre-match predictions, thoughts on the season ahead would be absolutely fantastic. So yeah, just like to bring as much fan content as I can. I'm available on YouTube at Football Martin _. Same on TikTok as well. Yeah, for opinions from a Southampton fan, check me out.
Excellent. I need to get more into TikTok. I do post on it, but I might
it's
seek
good.
your guidance. Yeah. It's interesting. It's an interesting platform, certainly. Right. Thanks very much to Martin. This will be out on Friday morning. We'll also hear from Steve, the Villa fan, who's been on our show before, about Alex Moreno, and then on Saturday post-match show about 5:45 PM to reflect on whatever happens against Saints. So yeah, really looking forward to that one. Martin, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Have a good day, everyone. If we don't see you then, we shall see you soon.